My name is George Demiris, and I'm the Associate Dean for Research and Innovation in the School of Nursing at the University of Pennsylvania. I also direct the Penn Artificial Intelligence and Technology Collaboratory for Healthy Aging, an initiative funded by the National Institute on Aging. In recent months, a lot of attention is being paid to the role of generative artificial intelligence, or generative AI, and the use of large language models such as ChatGPT. And there is anticipation that these tools can actually play a significant role in gerontology and to support older adults and the care they receive. There are many uses for large language models in healthcare, including data from the electronic medical record to inform algorithms that support decision-making for clinicians. Similarly, large language models are being used to interpret medical imaging, for medical translation, for virtual scheduling, but also for patient education. Large language models have the advantage that they can produce formally structured text. The text that is being generated can be adjusted to different literacy levels and different languages, so that the same information can actually be created at different reading levels for different audiences. Similarly, large language models can be used as conversational agents so that they can engage the user in real-time conversation and presentation of information. Furthermore, large language models can serve as a rapid search engine and generate summaries of different sources of information. There are some challenges that have been identified with large language models, including the so-called hallucinations, the fact that some of the information that's being provided is made up or inaccurate. It may sound right, but it's actually factually wrong. Similarly, the use of large language models may infringe upon copyright laws, and a lot of the legal issues are unclear. The introduction of large language models in healthcare does raise questions about the reliability and validity of these systems when it comes to generating and processing medical information. More specifically, in gerontology, large language models are thought of as tools that can help us to screen for cognitive decline based on input by the user, whether it is in form of audio or text. Finally, large language models can assist in the documentation of care transitions, as older adults with complex clinical needs may transition from one setting to another. In those cases, oftentimes information gets lost, and there is lack of continuity in terms of documentation. Large language models can summarize this information and make it accessible to all clinicians, formal and informal caregivers who are involved in the care of an older adult. In a recent study, ChatGPT was used to answer questions that patients had, and those responses were compared to those of clinicians. A group of experts then rated those responses and actually identified better bedside manners for ChatGPT. More specifically, the majority of ChatGPT responses were found to convey more empathy than those of primary care physicians. And while this study may have certain limitations, it does highlight the potential for large language models to be used to improve and facilitate communication with patients and their families. While ChatGPT and other large language models have the potential to improve communication with patients and families, we must also acknowledge the risk for bias in the data that those generative AI models use. For example, a recent study evaluated AI image generators in order to identify potential bias. In that study, the investigators asked a commercially available AI image generator to create images of Black doctors taking care of white children. And in spite of multiple prompts, the system consistently generated images of white doctors taking care of Black children. And that's because that racial bias was embedded in the images that the system was using, as the training said, because it was a bias that was already reflected in the data that served as the input for that system. In this study, investigators used several commercially available large language models, including ChatGPT, and asked specific questions that actually were to test whether the response would be based on race-based medicine. And indeed, in many cases, those large language models provided responses that perpetuated racialized answers that have been proven to be inaccurate or false. And that again is an example of biased data that are used as the input for a lot of these generative AI tools. We have the opportunity to define how generative AI can be used in aging, rather than waiting for our technology partners to identify the tools that will disrupt aging. We can define the parameters that can inform how generative AI and large language models can be used to promote appropriate and ethical and transparent use of artificial intelligence to promote aging. Thank you for watching. If you want more information about the use of generative AI and large language models specifically for aging and for persons with dementia, please visit the website for the Penn Artificial Intelligence and Technology Collaboratory for Healthy Aging.